We can figure that out.
Cool. All right. So let's present some awards, and some of the people are not here to get them. But we will mail it to them. And our first award, which is called the Conservation Activist Award, and it goes to Bob Sutherland, the owner of Cherry Republic. It's for nurturing environmental groups and causes through the visionary way that he runs his business. And he was a presenter of ours this year, and he gives 1% off the top to environmental causes, and also charges a quote unquote voluntary 1% tax that also goes to environmental causes. And years ago, he told me that he had donated $750,000 so far. So I'm sure now it is actually in the billions. This is what the certificates look like. I think they're kind of pretty. I think that's a trillion. Is that a trillion? Right. Bob, you're not there, or you don't have, you're not in the Zoom, and you don't have a representative in the Zoom, is that correct? Going once, going twice? Okay, next, we have Conservation Activist Awards for 5 people who organized something in Ann Arbor that's called the Bike Party. Let me ask if any of them are there. I think they were excellent. Exactly. Okay. So Bike Party is really fun. I found out about it this year and started participating in it this year. They have a ride on the last Friday of every warm month of the year in Ann Arbor, and they're for all ages and all ability levels, and they take you through interesting Ann Arbor neighborhoods and interesting Ann Arbor natural areas, and it's a good way to learn more about biking in a group. There's always a theme. One time the theme was mustaches. That was really funny. Another time that I went was Halloween, and it's just awesome. And the certificates go to Zach Smith, Claire McKenna, Jade Marks, Nate Phipps, and Suzette Wanenkoff. And I heard that at least one of them is here. Zach, you want to say a word? Unmute.
Sure. Yeah, thank you so much for the award. I'm happy to be here to represent the team. And really none of us can claim, or I'm not going to try even to claim credit for the creation of Bike Party. We've have inherited a pretty well-established and well-orchestrated event. And we, it takes this team to really put it together. There are a number of people who help. And so we're happy to have all of them. We've been able to keep the wind in the sails of an already moving ship. So it's a lot of fun. A couple other names I want to mention are Thomas Reed, Adam Goodman, and Ryan Powell. Ryan Powell tows a trailer behind his bike with a sound system on it every month, every ride for the entire duration, so that we can have some fun music. And I think I just want to talk a little bit about kind of the mission real briefly. It's just important that we foster a safe, effective, low carbon, fun, and easy way to move around the places where we live. And so for those reasons, Bike Party is explicitly designed to be accessible to as many riders as possible. And that pretty much means that it's a slow ride. It doesn't go strenuous distances. And we change up the route each month to help riders and people who attend to explore different parts of the city by bike. And we're proud to hear that some folks have taken to riding their bikes more frequently for trips after being exposed to the Bike Party community. And so we hope that is giving an impact beyond ourselves, and it's not just the same people. And in fact, we know it's not. About half the riders most months are there for the first time, and so it's a lot of fun to be exposing a lot of new people to biking. And I might encourage that. I hope that you will consider joining us next year. We, like Dan just said, we ride the last Friday of every month. Starts at 7 p.m. We always depart from the farmers market in Carytown, and we ride April through October. So come join us. It's a lot of fun, and thank you so much for the award. We're honored.
Suzette is my neighbor. I'll drop these certificates off at her house and she can get them off to you folks. Thank you so much for what you do. And he said, April, so whatever the last Friday is in April, 7 o'clock, farmer's market, see you there. Do you know the theme yet?
No, and we're excited that the themes were kind of more or less introduced this year. It started as Bike In, like a drive-in movie. And so some of you may have attended when it was a Bike In, and we would ride around town and stop at somebody's house and watch a movie on the side of the house. And then it kind of took on themes from there, Bike In, Bonfire. But we changed the name to Bike Party because when you're riding past a group of people who are really curious about what you're doing, and they say, "What are you doing?" And you say, "Bike In." They're like, "Yeah, we know you're biking. What is this?" So we changed it to Bike Party. We think that better encapsulates kind of the fun, lighthearted atmosphere of it. But we do kind of have a fun mission. So yeah, come see what the themes are. We haven't decided them yet. And if you'd like to help us, let us know if you have any good theme ideas.
It is so much fun. And the sound system that he was talking about, it's themed for the theme. So on Halloween, we were hearing the Monster Mash and all kinds of other cool songs like that. My mentor, Bill Stapp, in college said, people will do a lot more for the promise of joy than they will do out of being threatened with shame or guilt. So you want to get people out riding their bikes and leave their car behind, make it fun. It's such an awesome example. All right. So our next award is called Conservation Accomplishment. And I know this recipient is also on the Zoom. And it is Samuel McMullen. And Samuel has a foundation with his sister that's called Live Zero Waste. And this year, Samuel took over the Trash Talk Tour and did a fabulous job of running it and expanding it and bringing in a young person's imagination and young person's vibes. And Samuel doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk. I think Live Zero Waste got started when he and his sister Lydia had a contest to see which one of them could make the least trash for 2 years. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And I think they each kept their trash down to like a plastic bag apiece. Samuel can tell us the details about that, but he has just really brought issues of zero waste and the circular economy to the forefront in our area, again, in many fun ways that make people want to take part. So our Conservation Accomplishment Award this year goes to Samuel McMullen. And Samuel, do you want to say any words?
Yeah, well, first of all, just a big thank you to Dan. I stand on the shoulders of Dan when it comes to the Trash Talk Tour for sure. That was a really wonderful event. Lydia, my sister Lydia, who maybe is here, I don't know, I invited her, but surely we share this award, and it's shared with, it's got to be upwards of 50 volunteers who made that event and the Zero Waste Challenges happen. It's been a real community effort, and I'm so honored that it's made it to the Sierra Club. It means a lot. And yeah, I'm really excited for the next year of Zero Waste in Ann Arbor. I believe to my core that it's a bedrock climate strategy. It's one of the best things we can do to get to the environmental destruction problems at their heart, consumption reduction and eliminating the extraction that creates trash. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Yeah, we've been doing the Zero Waste Challenge for 7.5 years now, my sister and I, and someone actually threw away my trash about a year ago. I was hiding it I had like an IKEA bag full of all my years of trash, and I put it under the stairwell in my apartment building, and someone was like, well, this is trash, which was true. But so I don't have as strong of a record anymore, but I still keep my little container. I really appreciate it, Dan, and thank you to my mom. She made me do a project on Great Pacific Garbage Patch in 8th grade, and it's been downhill ever since.
Let's, I keep forgetting to say this. Let's have some appreciation for Samuel and also for all our other recipients that we've got. Okay. And yeah, next September will be Trash Talk Tour number 3. And by the way, Erica Ackerman, who's here, thought of that wonderful name, the Trash Talk Tour, which I think that's one of the best things about the Trash Talk Tour is its name. The next person does not know that they are receiving an award, and they are so deserving of it. We have an award that's called the Care and Feeding Award, and it's for people who sustain our groups. I have to say, Senator Sue here is a late entry, and she's coming in a close second with that big plate of delicious cookies that she brought. But this year, our Care and Feeding Award goes to my intern, Ms. Una Woodbury. Come on down.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is unexpected. It has been really, really fun being involved with the Sierra Club for the past year and 1 month, I think, pretty much. It's definitely pushed me, like, I don't know, I volunteered because I heard you guys needed a tech person, and I was like, I did that in high school, I can do this. But yeah, I really enjoyed being able to sit in the corner while everyone gives really cool talks and hear about new things every month and meet new people and see all of the amazing things that people are working on. And I'm always happy to make things go more smoothly. And in a lot of ways, if I don't get noticed, it's a good sign that everything's going all right. But yeah, it's been lovely, and hopefully I will continue to help for another year and a half.
Go blue. Now Jason is going to do our next awards, which is the Newcomer Award.
Thank you, Dan. Newcomer Award is for somebody at the Watershed Council. We call it the Big Splash. Somebody who really gets into it. First off, goes to another group of individuals, the EMU Sierra Club that was just launched this year. There are a few of us that sprinkled some seeds over the last couple of years, but this group has been amazing. They just took the reins, did all sorts of amazing programming over the last quite a few months, a bunch of outings, a bunch of cleanups. They've been doing fun programs where they get together with all sorts of other students. It's just really amazing to see them come to the table, get really good work done, and also just take charge. I was over at their meeting a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I grew up my whole life saying, we need to get more kids involved. And actually, no, we just need to get out of the way. And so this award goes to all the founding members of the EMU Sierra Club: Mariah Chartier, Tania Richardson, Kelsey Montroy, Kyle Martin, Kyle Bowling, Kyler Melmuth. You mentioned see a similarity there. Sarah Dubinsky. Sarah's, yeah, and that's the last one. Here to accept the award are Tania Richardson and Matt. You coming up also? Yeah, I mean, you're the best cheerleader for the group, so I think you should come up if you're into it. So.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, Tania, it's been a delight working with you. Here you go.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, I'm nervous. Okay. Well, first of all, hello everyone, and hello to the people of Zoom. And just thank you all for your continued support and commitment you have shown our group. It's been an absolute pleasure to lead the Sierra Club EMU chapter in our first year, and I hope to continue to inspire environmental justice and sustainability, not only on EMU's campus, but also in the surrounding communities as well. Whew. I've always dreamed of leading a club focused on what I'm passionate about, the environment, and that's something I've always loved as a kid. Some of my fondest memories are being at my grandma's apartment watching nature documentaries as soon as we wake up. A good time. And after several failed attempts in high school to try and create an Earth Club, the Sierra Club here was definitely a blessing that I could not have even expected or dreamed of. And I never would have thought in our first semester we would have accomplished so much. collecting 148 pounds of trash and plastics in a few hours, planning and installing new rain gardens, going on nature walks, hosting movie nights, and hearing lectures from a professor at EMU and celebrating National Recycling Day. So to keep it short, thank you all again for the kindness and support you've given our club. And I hope our partnership continues for years to come as the Sierra Club EMU chapter grows and continues to accomplish bigger and better things. Thank you.
Well, having graduated from the other green school in Lansing, I've always been proud that MSU has had this long-standing group for years and years. And a couple of years ago, we were really proud that U of M could finally make one, and we were really proud of that also. But I'm really happy that we have 2 green schools in the mix now. So thank you all.
All righty. Yeah, we're just happy, and Jason Frenzel should really get some credit too for getting that EMU Sierra Club started up. And we're just so happy to have Tadia and all those Kyles pitching in, enjoying, exploring, and protecting the planet. Okay, now we have something called the Democracy in Action Award, and it is going to someone who is in this room, and it's Takunia T.C. Collins. And the award says, in recognition of his lifetime of work educating young people about the Underground Railroad and the legacy of Black farmers in our area. So TC, please come up. Let's hear it for TC. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Nice meeting everyone for the first time. And everyone on Zoom, nice meeting you also. Bear with me because I have an invisible disability, so I have to think and process it and deliver it for you. I love gardening and farming, and I saw this opportunity of gardening and farming with my younger daughter. And it became a project that's wanted to take cupcakes to the school, ban in the school about sweets. So we switched up and we started a potato program. That was 11 years ago. Out of 11 years, we started off with just 30 potatoes in that classroom for that one season. We thought ended up being 360 potatoes for the whole school of Ann Arbor Preschool Center. From there, it blossomed to other schools from Whitmore Lake, Lincoln Consolidated, Ypsilanti Community Schools, Summer Knoll Private School, Boys and Girls Club, Bottle and Backpacks, and the Ypsilanti YMCA, and additional community itself. So from 30 potatoes till last year, even with COVID, we handed out, the kids got to learn how to grow their own potato. We grow over 30 different varieties of potatoes. We do not grow white potatoes specifically because we want the mind to expand to learning and to adapt new varieties of potatoes and different colors of potatoes. The history of the Peruvians of cultivating potatoes in their region. From there, we have met our milestone 3 times in 3 years in a row from 5,000 potatoes, 5,001, 5,002 to 5,003. This coming Earth Week of April, we will get to 5,004 potatoes. Reason why we push that envelope a little bit further, that is one child gets to learn something new. Our focus is to teach, stimulate, engage, and encourage young farming opportunities because that child is important for the future. No matter if we do not want to farm as we get older or get older as young, that child needs to lean upon education as much as they can. I've loved working with the aspect of humanity because food is our right and it's everyone's right. Sometimes a lot of people don't get that right. But I want to have that opportunity to share that. That is why we created the Underground Railroad Garden to talk and expand about the knowledge of African American history, not just because of a struggle of leaving of an oppressed area, not because they were refugees looking for freedom, but they traveled with an ambitious mind to teach as they went, no matter if they went north or as they went to the southern of the Americas. It is very important to learn about agriculture and all cultures, but it's very important to really hone in and understand the accomplishments of African American culture and farming from the 1600s going forward. That is why we created it right here in my home of Washtenaw County. It's our home. It is very important that we share this alike, because one day farming will stop. Before that day gets here, we have ample time to use up indoor space, cargo containers, office space, senior citizen high-rise, or even daycare centers, and even college universities. These are spaces that are green space. Thank you for this award, but it's not just for me. This award is for the community itself, because this community needs this award. So I want to thank him. Thank you.
So TC's organization is called Willow Run Acres. And Sue, I think you know this, that he recently got a generous grant from the county to carry this work forward, which has been up until now run on a shoestring and out of a shoebox, I think. So we're just really happy. TC was our speaker a few months back, and his candle's been burning brighter and brighter as this year of 2022 has passed, and he's an inspiration for all of us. Okay. Next, we have the Rachel Carson Communication Award. And the Rachel Carson Communication Award goes to somebody who has done special work publicizing environmental issues in our 3-county area. And our recipient tonight is actually receiving this award for the 2nd time. I think she got it some years back. And this award, the Rachel Carson Award, is going to Barbara Lucas. And you may have heard her voice if you ever listen to WVMU on a show called The Green Room, where she does long form reporting on environmental issues. And it's also on cable TV as well. And we decided to revisit Barbara Lucas for this award because she is sadly retiring. And the award says, Rachel Carson Award is presented to Barbara Lucas in recognition of the passion for the environment she has brought to her decades of media work. And Barbara had hoped to be here in person tonight, but conscientious person that she is, she was afraid she had got exposed to COVID and she didn't want to give us COVID. So she's going to speak to us from home. And Barbara and I are friends, and we've been friends for many, many decades, going back to the Recycle Ann Arbor days around 1980. So Barbara, take the floor, please.
Thank you, Dan. It does feel kind of full circle that I started out doing environmental stuff back with Dan, and I'm, well, we won't say I'm ending environmental stuff. I'm still going to be working in environmental advocacy for sure. And I'd like to say, I do think it's a wonderful thing that the Sierra Club has an award for journalists, because I feel journalism is a field that's vastly underappreciated for its crucial role in bringing issues to light and increasing awareness. A case in point is that my fire for environmental advocacy was first lit by an article I read 55 years ago. It was about the greenhouse effect in my weekly reader back in 5th grade. I didn't actually go into environmental communications until 4 decades and a couple careers later. But once I did, I felt like I'd really finally come home. I'd been volunteering as an environmental advocate for many years, but through media, I was able to reach so many more people than I had before, which was really exciting. So I'm especially grateful to have had a chance to create the Green Room series, which aired, as Dan said, on CTN television and WEMU radio with financial support from Washtenaw County. Those collaborations were really wonderful, and I thank all involved. By the way, it's just so happens that my last Green Room show ever aired on CTN today, premiered today. And I am going to try freelancing. Wish me luck with that. And it's just really nice to have gotten this award today at the same time as my last show premiered. Thank you all so very much. I really am very grateful.
Hey, Barbara, remind me to bring me this pretty certificate with the trillium on it. It's so funny that you mentioned weekly readers. You young people, is there any still such thing as the weekly reader? There was a little newspaper that we got and sat and read at our desks when we were in elementary school. And I remember reading in the weekly reader, and this must have been 55 years or so ago, that mosquitoes were going to be extinct on Earth by 1970. And that was because of this new wonderful chemical called DDT that was just coming into full use to exterminate mosquitoes. And so Barbara Lucas is getting the Rachel Carson Award, and it was Rachel Carson who pushed the DDT train off the rails before it extincted all our birds and fish that eat insects. So that's funny that connection is there. So the last two awards that we're giving out tonight are both the George Sexton Public Servant of the Earth Award. And the first one is going to our Water Resources Commissioner, Evan Pratt, and he's here. And it's Evan's office that paid for the Green Room to be on WEMU, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a pretty nice segue. Evan is a jack of all trades. He's the Water Resources Commissioner. He gets us ready for climate change and make sure that our community is resilient and can stand rain events and floods without being overwhelmed. But he also played our entrance music on his saxophone for our meeting tonight. So man of all seasons, Evan Pratt.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you to the group. As Dan mentioned, I was here a couple of months ago, and due to time, just talked about what our office does with flooding and climate preparation. But yes, Barbara thought of the Green Room show, and this was as she was transitioning. When I started 10 years ago, she was doing the Issues of the Environment show that you might hear Wednesday mornings. It's replayed 4 times each week. 50 weeks of the year, and Barbara also transitioned issues of the environment to another person as she moved towards the Green Room. And Barbara was doing a lot of Green Room shows. She has to tail off a little bit so we could ease in and transition. So this is a roundabout way of saying, without people like Barbara Lucas, without the team I have, without a group like this that talks about the issues and gets motivated and does the trash talk tour and says, well, can't we stop by your place? And yeah, let's figure out how we can do that and work together. When we work together, when we overlap, we can get so much more done. So I'd just like to mention 2 other things. One, for everyone online or here, I just want to make clear that, yes, I work with Susan Bryan. Oftentimes people, I'm introduced to people and they say, oh, Water Resources, do you know Susan Bryan? And I say, well, yes, I work with Susan. So she seems to be more well-known than I am. And I am very happy about that because Susan runs, as for those who don't know, has run and built a rain garden program over the last dozen years or so. We also do pollinator gardens and those types of things. On the schools front, it's been very important over the last 8 to 10 years. We've gotten both water quality into many schools around the county. We look at that through an equity lens. We look at census tracts, what are our minority populations, and make sure that we are very disproportionately representing ourselves on the east side of the county. Likewise, we're now in 29 schools with recycling programs. Ipsy Schools has been a wonderful partner for that. So it's just a great opportunity today to just mention two other things that we do. Recycling is really important, and taking back stuff that shouldn't be dumped into the environment. Because I already knew coming into this job that, by golly, there's a lot of water and it's almost everywhere. And it turns out this award, as far as the citizen of the earth, public servant of the earth, there's even more earth than there is water. It's kind of crazy. And it seems like just about everything my office does, we're impacting water and the environment with everything. So it's really important to be mindful. And it's just really wonderful, again, to have clubs like this, groups like this, groups like the League of Conservation Voters, Michigan Environmental Council, folks that are always willing to talk and always willing to talk about what we're doing. So thank you very much for that lovely trillion. I look forward to going to Bird Hill and seeing the women's.
So one of the many things that Evan's office does is to do toxic waste collections at their shop on Zeeb Road, and countless tons of harmful substances have been kept out of our water and out of our environment by that program.
1.5 million pounds this year.
1.5 million pounds this year. And Evan, I'm giving you a lot of lead time on this. We want the trash doctor to stop there and see it next year, maybe even to have a collection next year. I know you were too busy. You were too busy and too understaffed this year. All right. Last but not least, no yawning. Last but not least, and we are so proud to have you here, is the current chair of the Washtenaw County Commission, but just elected state senator from our area, and HVG member, as is Evan as well, is Sue Shink. And Sue Shink is the real deal. Again, she and I go back a ways, and I have seen her be courageous in environmental leadership a lot of times. And I told everybody when I was knocking on their door, Sue Shink is the real deal. We have the opportunity to elect a real environmentalist here. And just to give you a few examples, she went up against the Washtenaw County Road Commission, which was getting a reputation for just cutting down every tree in sight every time they went out to work on a road, and cutting down mature trees. And it's hard to argue with that, because then they come back and say, well, what are you gonna say if somebody crashes into this tree and dies? We left it standing because you thought it was pretty. So that was a courageous, high stakes effort that you led. I know personally that she led the idea of having an all-electric building at our Washtenaw County Parks facility that's being built right now. The Stabler Farm Park building is going to be all electric because of Sue's advocacy. Just today at a meeting, we were talking about Sue's leadership when we decided on the County Parks and Recreation Commission to start an endowment fund to take care of our nature preserves in the future. It was Sue who said, let's don't just plunk that money down into anything, because we could be investing in these mutual index funds, and we could be investing in, fossil fuels. We could be investing in guns. We could be investing in tobacco. That doesn't make sense to put money that's for nature preserves into investments that are not earth friendly. And at first, I think that idea was met with a lot of skepticism, but eventually Sue prevailed, and that's how she is. She just gets in there and pushes. And just to mention one other thing that I know about, would be a few years back, there was an outbreak of Eastern equine encephalitis, which is a scary disease that mosquitoes carry, and it's harmful to kids. So there was a lot of panicking by the then Michigan DNR and wanting to spray insecticide into every water body in sight. And Sue asked some questions and said, hey, Wayne, let's don't do this. It's not effective. It isn't gonna help, but what it is gonna do is put a lot of toxins in a lot of our water bodies. And again, I thought that was a courageous stand to take, and kind of a high stakes stand to take. But we kept the sprays out of those lakes, and still nobody died in Westland County of EEE. So we are just so happy to be sending you to join, hopefully, an environmentalist majority up there in Lansing. And I know you've been studying hard and working hard and learning the things that you're gonna need to learn as you take this step up. And it just gives me so much pleasure to present the George Sexton Public Servant of the Earth Award to our home, Sue Shake.
Well, thank you so much. This is really special. For a couple reasons actually that Dan mentioned. I met Dan in about maybe 2004, 2005. I had just moved here from Grosse Pointe, and part of the reason that we moved here was to farm, and partially to just get away from all the toxic chemicals that people were knowingly and willingly putting into the environment and themselves there, but also some of the ones that were coming down the river from Sarnia, which is across the river from where I grew up. And so Dan was there when our township officials decided that a 5,000 home subdivision was just the thing for our small farming community. Not everybody there is a farmer, but a lot of the economy was centered around farming at that time. And I will say that without the help of Dan and a number of other Sierra Club members, including Susie Heine, who's now moved to Arizona, Doug Cowherd, who's still in Ann Arbor, and Gene Ragland, who lives down by where the new interchange is going to happen, which might be another fight. And they helped us with the person power, with the political know-how, and with the connections, and sometimes with some money. And we were able to turn that fight into a community building effort, because it's important that when you're working on these kinds of things, that it's not just a fight, that you're also building friendships, you're building relationships, and you're building community. There has been a lot of growth in Northfield Township since that time. Also since that time, we have a strong Washtenaw County Farmland Preservation Program. We have the Green Belt, which is something we didn't have when that fight took place. And we have a really strong natural areas preservation program. All those things synergistically happen. Now we have other issues too, right? Like we have more impending climate change. We have an affordable housing crisis. We still have a farmland for farmers crisis that we're working on here in this county, and a whole bunch of other things. And one of the things that Sierra Club does so well that I appreciate so much is to make those lonely fights less lonely, and to turn them from just a fight into a community building project. Because I think you've said it a couple times already tonight, or maybe you were quoting somebody else. If it's not fun and you're just fighting, you're just telling people what to do, it's not going to last very long. And these efforts, Everett Pratt's made a whole career of it. These efforts are going to take all of our lifetimes to keep working on. And so keeping it positive and keeping it building is something Sierra Club does really well. And I'm so happy to have you in my corner. I could say so much more, but I think I'll just finish with this. Dan Ezekiel said that I was the real deal many times, because he spent many hours out canvassing, not just for me, but for the things that he knows I'm going to work for, because it's really important that for you, that you are supporting so many of us, because I know it's not just me, so many of us in this work. So thank you very much.
Nice high five there. Evan, so, and that concludes our awards. And we'll get to the trips part in just a minute, but I did want to tell a story about this past election night. And Sue, I was handing out leaflets at one of the polling places, and Sue showed up. The reason we were both at that polling place was because it's one of the most voted polling places in person, Slauson Middle School. And Sue showed up for a minute or two, and then her phone started buzzing, and it was her people telling her that she better get down to the U of M campus because students were standing in long lines. They had procrastinated and they didn't register to vote until the moment of the election. And as you may have heard, they were standing in line in some cases until 2 a.m, and it was cold out. And so Sue shot down there along with a lot of our other elected officials, Representative Yusuf Rabi and Mayor Chris Taylor and other favorites of the Huron Valley group went down there in order to give the students blankets and pizza and morals support to encourage them to stay in line. So that was how Sue spent the end of her election day, was handing out blankets and handing out pizza to shivering students standing in line down on the diet to encourage them to remain in place, which they apparently did because they didn't finish voting until 2 o'clock in the morning. So what a wonderful group. We're always happy to have suggestions for awards and people that we should give the awards to. So please let us know who you think should be getting these awards next year. It's never too early to start planning. I should also mention that we gave out one award early last November. We gave our Environmental Justice Award to our own Tajali Hodge, and there's just no one that could possibly be more deserving of that award than she. I think she and Justin spend every waking hour, except when they're doing their full-time jobs and when they're taking care of their puppy. I think every other waking moment is spent trying to think of ways to help poor people and disadvantaged people to have better lives and to have dignity in our community. We're going to name that award for a person, and we have a person in mind, the Environmental Justice Award, and we've asked that person for permission, and so far they haven't gotten back to us. I think because they're busy in law school, but hopefully that award will have a new name by the time the awards roll around next year. Okay. So this is the awards/trips meeting. It's kind of a tradition, and everybody's encouraged to bring a few slides from their trip. We're going to let John go last because he's such a good photographer. Nobody wants to follow him. When are you? Are you ready to share?
Sure.
All right.
Mine might be kind of long,
That's okay.
but, right, if you, I emailed it to you.
Okay.
I don't know if you have your email open.
Yeah, you make too much.
Had to make sure they say something. Thanks for the picture.
All right, there we go.
All right. Could I get you to move forward? This way? Oh, you too?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this summer I went on a road trip with my friend Harry. We were from California in the Bay Area and we went up to Portland, Oregon. So next slide, that's me and that's Harry. Yeah, he's been like my best friend since like halfway through high school and we keep in touch even though he lives in LA now. Yeah, next one. So the first place we went from the Bay Area was into like Tahoe area. We tried to go to find like some sort of ghost town type of thing, but the road was really long and oh yeah, it's a road trip, but Harry has an electric car, so that was our like environmental thing. His car could not handle it, so that was him trying to see if we could get anywhere, but we had to turn around, unfortunately. Here's some of the gorgeous, I think, California golden or brown, yellow grass and like rolling hills and bushes as we continued our way up to California. Going there, that was our first glimpse of Mount Shasta, which we were going to stay at, which is gorgeous. It's so huge. It was my first time ever being, and I was very excited. We had to stay in Airbnbs because neither of us were over 21 and they like won't let you make reservations in hotels, but our Airbnb had chickens and it was just like this little like farming homestead place. It was the cutest thing and it was very fun. I have a couple more pictures of the same place. Oh yeah, I should share that. This is also the same place. There's some of her, the woman there growing crops and another glimpse of the Bridgestones there. All right. We continued up north. This was like, I think, right around crossing from California into Oregon. You can see like a lot more mountainous, bigger trees and all that. We did stop in Lake California. I think it's kind of obligatory when you're that close by. So there's a big weed sign.
Oh, and a Sierra Club shirt.
Yes.
Woo-hoo.
People
An
wear
HV,
Sierra
an
Club shirts.
HVG shirt.
We thought we saw an observatory. You can't really see it in this photo, but there's like this little white like dot on the thing. And Harry and I were both really into astronomy in high school, so we were very excited about seeing the observatory as we were crossing into Oregon. This was one of the places we went in Eugene, the Morning Glory Cafe. We have a friend who goes to school in Eugene, and she recommended it. It was super cute. And here was a glimpse of Portland. It was my first time ever being to this Portland. My family's in Portland, Oregon a lot, so I was very excited about
Portland, Maine.
Portland, Maine. This Portland, Oregon. I was very excited, and we got to see my old babysitter there, who's the next photo up there, which is the first time I've seen her in like 10 years, and those are her kids, and it was very exciting. So we were very happy. On our way back down, we got to drive past Shasta again. It's gorgeous. And we saw some cool trains. Took photos in front of it. For some reason, Harry took this really nice photo of me, and then I took like kind of a bad photo of him. I feel bad at the next one.
We just have to say HVG shirt again.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's like the sunlight's blocking it, but it was a very cool train. So yeah, that was fun. And there were some gorgeous trees in this little town we found. There's a living there. It was very cool. And it's so hot that day. This was our final Airbnb, also gorgeous. It was like a little like guest house up these like, gorgeous rolling mountains back in California. So I have quite a few pictures from there. This was like the view on our deck that we had. It was wild. Another view out towards the main house. Gorgeous maple tree. It was lovely. And that was our drive back down, kind of to get on the main road on our last leg home from up there in California. And then this is last views of the rolling hills in the distance and the I don't know, I just love it's so quintessentially California to me, but like dirty looking dry grass with the green trees. I just love it. Yeah. This was on our way across the bay home. You can see just like this low lying fog on the top of the water that I love so much. And then the next photo, the last one, glimpse of the city. It was just so lovely to come home with the fog greeting us. And yeah, I thought it was really beautiful. And it was a super fun trip. It was like only 4 days or something. We packed a lot of things.
Woo-hoo.
You had a couple of pictures of a room called Sacramento.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I saw some snow as well. But did you see any snow on the way back? Because I saw 2 different angles.
Yeah, it was definitely it depends on the side. It's also because the shape is kind of uneven, it was only in some places. But I think there was still snow on it. Yeah. Some parts of it. It's pretty high up there, but it was hot.
Okay.
Did you notice any climate differences in what we have here? Even though we are in the peninsula and have a different type of growing seasons, but like you had mentioned earlier about the brown grass, is that throughout the whole area because of the dry season at that
Yeah,
time?
yeah, it's, we don't get a lot of water, so it's pretty common in most places, unless you get really up in the mountains, like towards the east. There's a lot, like, really, really, really dry, almost dead looking grass, and it's pretty different. Kind of. But yeah, it's really interesting to see the different, you know, like, by Tahoe, where it's a lot colder, and then out the valley. Oregon, familiar, different. Yeah. There's, basically just like a bunch of trees, very funny. I don't know how.
Okay, well, you advance my slide? All right,
Are they shared? Otherwise.
I don't know. Oops. Okay. So this past September, my wife and I celebrated 40 years of marriage, and we decided to go on an ambitious trip. And we went to the nation of Croatia, which is part of the former Yugoslavia. And we took part in a what was called a bike boat journey. So if you would go. We flew to Zagreb, Croatia, which is the capital. And this is the statue in the main square. And like I said, Croatia is part of the former Yugoslavia. And Zagreb is a very nice town. But it's a little rundown. And we found that almost everywhere we went, things were a little old fashioned and behind the times, which we just absolutely love. But there have been so many wars fought through Croatia because Croatia is at the crossroads between east and west and north and south. And everybody that ever comes to Croatia decides they want to conquer it. And that's been the Italians and the French and the Turks and the Russians. And they've had to fight off many invaders over the years, and you can still see bullet holes on the walls of buildings and so forth. So my take home was, if you want prosperity, try to avoid being in the middle. If you want to advance. So then we went to the island of Krk, which is spelled K-R-K. The Croatians are not really big on using vowels all the time. And we went to this beautiful little town of Omišalja. And Omišalja is on the North Dalmatian coast. The South Dalmatian coast has many famous tourist towns that you've heard of, like Split and Dubrovnik, but the Northern Dalmatian coast is much less well known. And we got on this little boat and the boat had bikes aboard. There were 35 of us paying customers on the boat. And every day we would wake up on a different island and we'd go on a bike ride, and it would either be a circle tour to come back to the boat, or oftentimes we went from point to point, and when we got to point B, the boat was there waiting for us. So this was just wonderful. The company is called Island Hopping, and I cannot recommend it enough. So most of the bikes were e-bikes, and most of the customers used e-bikes, but me being me, of course, I used an old school bike. By the end, there were only 2 of us that were left using non-e-bikes. And we were both in our 60s, so go figure. All right, go ahead. And here we are getting on the bikes to go on that day's trip. You can see some passengers are still on board. Not everybody went on a bike ride every day. it was a great group. They were so interesting. There were people from Germany, there were people from England, there was a Detroit cop. Um, who happened to be gay and had toenail polish. And so it's just, they were just the most fun people, and interesting people to get to know. Go ahead. And that's Tina and me. And the big attraction of the Dalmatian coast is this beautiful blue Adriatic Sea. The scenery is just so spectacular. The water's so blue and so clear. And then also the people are, so it's the biggest industry in Croatia is tourism, but yet it's not built up and it's not crazy. The big companies aren't there. Disney's not there. We didn't see a Holiday Inn. We actually did see one McDonald's in Zagreb, but it's still really a mom and pop kind of tourism. And the people are reserved, but if you make the slightest effort to reach out to them, they're so proud of their country and they want to share everything with you. They're so proud of their families. They want to share everything with you. They want to tell you the history of their country. They want to teach you some words of their language. They want you to try the food. I just have never been to a warmer place. Okay.
I hear they have a good soccer team too.
They have a good soccer team and gosh darn it, they got eliminated today by Argentina. So here we are on one of the bike rides, just having to stop and cooling our feet. For some reason, this little fact that we were told sticks in my mind. The lighthouse in the background was painted yellow 100 years ago using the yolks of 100,000 eggs. Okay. And just, I mean, every place we went was prettier than the last place. And I just loved this little cove. And the little boat, it just looked like the kind of place where you could run away to and kick back if you were a millionaire and just spend the rest of your life here at your leisure, enjoying the beauty. And in fact, they told us that island in the background, if we'd have gone over that island to the other side, we would have seen Beyonce and Jay-Z. They were in their yacht over there on the other side. Okay. And that's just another picture from another little cove, and that's our boat. So oftentimes we would stop at a little place like this, and that's where we would start our trip. So of course, all our bike trips had to start at a port because we were traveling on a boat, and these islands have very steep they're mountains that are sticking up out of the water. So always what we would do was start up on a very steep climb, and then we would usually get to a road that would go more or less level. And then if we took a break at another town, that would be another port, we'd go down again and then up. Okay. And this is just another picture of the water. It just blew my mind how beautiful and clear it was everywhere we went. And the people who live here are very proud of the Adriatic and how clean it is. Okay. And as part of our boat tour, we also got a chance to tour 4 different towns, and they just engaged tour guides who were locals to these towns and took us around and showed us the churches and the 1,000-year-old buildings and squares and things in these towns on these islands. If you get a chance to go to Croatia in general and North Dalmatia in particular, I highly recommend. Again, it was September. Sometimes it was hot in the day. It was always warm enough to swim. It wasn't cold at night. Sometimes we slept up on the bed. Okay. And the towns are just beautiful and charming, and we have these limestone walls everywhere, and people propagate all kinds of beautiful plants, and they have little cafes everywhere, and they make really good coffee. The Italians have had a huge influence on Croatia. Sometimes Italy has been owning Croatia, and so cappuccino and espresso is everywhere. It's very, very good. They had some homegrown beer that I thought was just excellent. I can't remember the name, but it started with Z, and everywhere you go in Croatia, they would serve you that beer. It's very good. Don't say no. And then the other thing that just cracked me up was they are crazy about Coca-Cola, and they have little old school glass bottles of Coca-Cola, 6 ounces. And they serve it with everything. If you ordered a martini, I think they would give you a 6-ounce Coke to go along with it. So, and they just thought that was the most sophisticated thing in the world, was to drink from those little bottles of Coke, like the ones that when we were kids, that in that heavy glass, you know, that they reuse and refill. Okay. These ladies are unloading the grape harvest. They make some very good wine in Croatia. And so she's raking the grapes that were just picked from the vineyard, and they go in here. And this machine twirls around and pushes them through a screen, and it gets the skins out. And then the mush gets sucked in here and goes in there and gets squished into juice. It's the first step. It's the first step in making white wine, and they have very good homegrown white wine and red wine in Croatia. Lots of vineyards, but the crop that they have the most of is olives. And there are many low limestone walls that will go on for miles, and then they'll have like a little bay in the wall, and it'll just be protecting 1 or 2 or 3 olive trees that are many hundreds of years old, protecting it from the very cold winds that they have in the winter. I guess they have a very harsh wind that blows in the winter, and they were always talking about it and how bad it is. So that's what they want to do, is protect their olive trees. They were having a terrible drought. Global warming has affected this part of the world a lot, and they said they only got 30% of the olive harvest this year compared to an average year, because they had been so drought. Okay. And then this lady, we went to a cultural center where they showed us how to make this particular special cookie that is native to this town, which I can't remember the name of. And she's showing us step by step how to make the cookies. And then this roll here looks like a dragon, but it's going to get cut into slices and baked into cookies. And we went to this town, and I also can't remember the name of this town, but it's famous, among other things, for having the narrowest street in the world. This is said to be the narrowest street in the world. It's 41 centimeters wide at this point. Okay. And then one day, this other woman and I happened to wear the same shirt for the Tour Detroit bike ride, so I thought that was pretty cool. And they have the kinds of plants that you see in dry places, including cactuses. So it's a lot of fun for people who know about trees and plants to enjoy Croatia. And you can see that thing in the background. It looks like an agave. I don't know if that's what it is, but it was like being in a botanical garden. Okay. And this is in the same town that had the narrowest street in the world. And just another just gorgeous, fabulous view of the blue Adriatic. Okay. Oh, and this just cracked me up. This is a street. This is a public street. And I don't know how well you can tell from this picture. You can see the water off on the left. And that's like an 8-foot drop down from that curb to the water. And I was thinking, they definitely do not have the same tort bar that we do, because there would be, Better Call Saul, and when it wasn't 1-800 call Sam would be on every corner of the street. But I never saw anybody come to any grief here. It's just it's a whole different lifestyle, very laid back, live and let live. Okay. And the food was simple and hearty and fabulous. And they loved to make food and show you what their local specialties were and serve them to you. It was all, as you know, the dollar was very strong this year, and not only was everything fabulous, but it was really affordable. I don't know if that's always the case, but this year, $1 and €1 were about the same. Okay. And Evan's not the only musician. I like to play music. I was happy to see there was a guitar on board. Those two guys standing up were our guides, our bike guides. Chris is on the left, and having a senior moment about the guy's name on the right, but everybody called him the blonde Jesus anyway. They never called him by his name. They were great. They were both very musical, and so we're just passing the guitar around and singing Croatian songs and American pop songs. Okay. And I heard that you are supposed to end a slideshow of the sunset, so there's a sunset over the Adriatic, and that's my trip to Croatia. Right.
I was in air quality over there.
Oh my gosh, it was fabulous. I mean, the, it's, there's not a dense population, there's not a lot of industry. There was some, along the seacoast, there were some refineries, and funnily enough, even there, I didn't smell anything there. It was just a feast for the senses. I'm gonna admit, our trip was a super spreader event. By the time all was said and done, about half of us had gotten COVID, including me. I got COVID when we were already back. And I guess that's just the chance you take these days when you travel.
Now, what about eye pollution? Was there a lot of eye pollution on the roadways?
Not at all. The Croatian people are so proud of their country, and it just, for example, it wouldn't cross their mind to litter, because that would be despoiling their country.
What is it that the eye pollution, like billboards everywhere you go?
No,
Like here, you have billboards every 10th of a mile.
absolutely. And I just think everything in Croatia reminded me of how America was when we were young. I'm sure they'll get all the bad things in the future, but they just haven't spread there yet. Go ahead.
Dan, Barbara asked, what company did you say?
It was called Island Poppers. Yeah, highly recommend it.
I wouldn't want to.
Yeah,
This is Stephen, another question. My ancestors, some of them, came from Croatia in 1400s. They either followed or were forced to go to Austria by the Turkish people, and they lived separately from others pretty much until about my generation. Now I think they're more mixing with the rest of the
interesting.
They still speak Serbo-Croatian.
The people that we met, first of all, they must have really great schools in Croatia, because everybody that we needed to interact with could speak English. A lot of them could speak German. A lot of them could speak Italian, because those are really the countries that come. English speaking countries, Italy, which is right around the corner, and Germany, which is right around the corner. And they knew their history, and they loved to teach you about their histories for as long as you would pay attention to that. It's just so cool. So you're taking after them a little bit. See.
I think that's maybe a human.
See. Yeah. So I really want John to go last, because nobody can follow him. Is there anybody else either here in person or on the Zoom that wants to share a trip before we give John a chance? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Put up your raised hand, or say something if you want to share. Ron, you shared really cool a couple of years ago. Do you have anything for us? Carol, I know you're a traveler. No? All right. John, we're gonna turn it over to you, whatever you brought to share with us. Can you share from where he is?
Does he have screen share?
Okay, I guess I have the last few years. I'll just, share some pictures from Southeast Michigan, because I tend to think there's a fair bit of beauty just to see here locally. And so I guess without further ado, we'll just kind of progress through the year. Yep. I'm assuming everybody can see this all right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so, you know, some of these will get a little bit of explanation and some of them are just here for, you know, for pretty. This one's a bit of both. That is the native bittersweet, recognizable by the fact that the fruits are only on the end of the stems. With the Asiatic bittersweet, you'd have fruits all along the edges, all along the entire stem. And so if you think you have invasive bittersweet, you know, wait until late fall, check and see where the fruits are. And some of these, it's hard to read. Most of them in the lower left corner, there's an indicator of what you're looking at and where. These are just the leftover shells from the fruits of tulip tree blossoms after a nice soft snowfall. This, if you like, you know, if you like hoarfrost, get out early in the morning and okay, this one I can't resist because I'm a huge fan of beavers. And if you look through here, there are lots and lots of saplings, and even in the background here, some bigger trees that have been cut by beaver. The most interesting thing in the beaver, this is in Oakwoods Metro Park over near Monroe. The most interesting thing to me is you see all these saplings and you don't see any of the rest of the trees, right? Everything above that stump has been hauled off by the beaver and stuck in the mud at the bottom of the pond next to its lodge to make a pantry, so that when it gets really cold and the water ices over, it just pops out its lodge, grabs a branch or two from the pantry where it's been kept fresh, pulls it back into the lodge and eats the cambium layer. But it's cool. When you see beaver cut, look around and you'll notice you probably won't see any branches that are smaller than 2 or 3 inches in diameter. They'll just clear out the whole area. Winter lasted a while. Okay. Nope, I should cover up this so you can't see what it is. That is, you know, common hackberry bark, which is one of the coolest things that you can see in the woods. I took the liberty of rotating it sideways. Normally it's going up and down. And this is an egg sac for a praying mantis on red osier dogwood. Even though praying mantises aren't local, they're pretty cool. I had the great pleasure of getting out for the salamander migration this year. And you know, we saw some spotted salamanders heading to vernal pools to mate. The male and the female flowers from hazelnut. Because the catkins are real easy to see when you're walking in the woods. If you're walking in the woods in late March and you see catkins, stop and look closely, and you'll see these cool little pinkish purple flowers. Those are the female flowers for the hazelnuts. And there's a harbinger of spring that is, I don't know, maybe 10 times life size. The harbinger of the individual flowers you see there, maybe 1/4 of an inch across. Another, you know, adventure out at night to a vernal pool. That's a spring peeper. And that thing is, you know, roughly the size of your thumb. It can produce somewhere, its peep is somewhere around 100 decibels. All right, so this is out at Kosh Headwaters. And what you can see is on the birdhouse, sort of in the back, you see a bluebird. A male and female bluebird had taken up residence, putting a nest in the house. The tree swallows also like to use these houses, and they were trying to intimidate the bluebird. And we were out there on one of Washtenaw County's hikes. We probably watched for 5 or 10 minutes as at times there were up to 5 tree swallows buzzing the bluebird, and he just stood there. He just puffed his chest up and just stood there unflinching as they came zooming by him. It was pretty cool. Eventually the swallows gave up. And here we see the product of all those salamanders going to vernal pools and mating. Those are spotted salamander egg masses. And, you know, it's a little hard to tell. Those are actually underwater. You can sort of see the water line here on the branches. The joy of polarizing filters, they get rid of glare and you can see right into the water. Okay, for those of you who are at Mathai, that eagle was sitting roughly 1.6 miles from where you're sitting. And this is a property that Dan, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, Washtenaw County really needs to acquire because it has a 1 acre vernal pool in which I counted 90 some egg masses this spring. And it has this, I think, fella, but I'm not sure. And that fine lady living in the corner of it. And so Washtenaw County would have the opportunity to get, I don't know if it's the world's biggest vernal pool, but it's a huge vernal pool and a bald eagle nest. Yeah.
Oh, I just said, please ask them to apply to NATAP.
To what?
To ask them to apply to the preservation
Oh,
program.
they have.
Okay.
Yep. It's Jack Smiley's. It's a property Jack Smiley acquired. And, you know, since you're all trustworthy folks, it's directly opposite, directly south of Cherry Hill Preserve on Cherry Hill Road. And, you know, somebody could do some neat stuff by combining an agricultural preservation grant and a natural area preservation grant, maybe, and, you know, get the whole property.
We'll talk.
All right, back to just ordinary nature. LaFerge Woods is one of the great places in the county to go for spring ephemerals. Oh, not so ordinary nature. Once again, back to a vernal pool. That is a salamander fetus developing inside an egg in a vernal pool. Okay, and so I was doing a lot of trips to vernal pools and happened to see one where it's like, wow, those dots in the middle of the eggs are getting really big. And so I put some effort and all right, back to just boring old trout lilies. And, you know, I'm learning that the ordinary violet actually can be pretty beautiful. And, you know, for those of you who think you need a lot of camera to take nice pictures, that was taken with my 2020 iPhone SE. Okay. This wasn't. This was taken with a bit more camera. Dan, yellow warbler,
Yes, sir.
and a palm warbler. And you always have to have a couple of Canada geese showing off their reflections. I've never been to Miller Woods in Plymouth before. It's this little 10-acre woods right in Plymouth, and it is astonishing for spring ephemerals. It's maybe second to Draper Houston in our service area as far as its quality. You know, Dutchman's Breeches, their sister, Squirrel Corn. It just is a really amazing little place. Oh. And then, you know, some early spring fun. That's going to develop to be a maidenhair fern. And here we have the sterile frond of an equisetum and its fertile frond with the spores in it. And somewhat rare in this part of the country, a drooping trillium. And so if you ever go through a patch of trillium and you notice that some of them just have 3 leaves with no big white flower head sticking up, look underneath the leaves. Is that there are 2 local types of trillium that are the flower head drops below the leaves. And then also, you have to look low for wild ginger flowers. And if you're really ambitious, you get down there and smell them. They're slightly like rotted meat. And this is just, I happen to be going to Lafarge to do some prep for our spring program with Jacqueline on the deer browsing. And, there's a nice little storm west of M52. Gotta love our bumblebees. I guess this was my year for down low flowers. I did a lot of crawling on my stomach. This was another great day at Jack Smiley's new property. I came out of the woods and there was a red-tailed hawk just sailing on the wind. How it had its wings out and it was just hanging there, almost hovering. And then it would tip a wing and go sailing off. I spent 20 minutes with this hawk, zooming off, and then it would come back and hover over me. And it was screaming the whole time. I never did see any evidence that there was a nest nearby. I don't know if it thought I was cute or what, but it was the most vocal hawk I've ever seen. An interesting fact I learned this year. I mean, I guess I was sort of aware of it. If you ever are watching a movie and you hear a bald eagle do a nice screech, you're not hearing a bald eagle, you're hearing a red-tailed hawk. Bald eagles have this pathetic little peep type thing they do. They don't really screech the way you'd think a bird like that should. Red-tailed hawks do. All right, here we go. Who can identify that plant? Me neither. That's why, for those of you who go to my website every now and then, you'll see a picture that's it's labeled as a mystery plant, and it means it's a plant that I wasn't able to recognize offhand. And every now and then people will send me information saying, "Oh, well, such and such plant's this." You can't do summer without visiting the bog at Waterloo to check out the various orchids they have. Here. And this one, at the request of the property owners, the location is not revealed. That's a pawpaw. And there is some concern that if people knew where they were, the fruit would all disappear very quickly and none of the local animals would get it. So, another hidden location. Anybody want to guess what this is? Yes, that is lupin. And yeah, this is in our service area. So just an incredible field. It's, I don't know, 5 acres maybe, and it's just covered with lupin.
Was that the black tail dragonfly that you just had?
Do you know your dragonflies, John?
Say what?
Do you know the name of that dragonfly that you showed on the last slide?
No, but I could find out for you if you really are interested.
Quite sure that's a black tail dragonfly.
TC says it's black-tailed dragonfly.
Okay. It would be difficult for me to know less about identifying dragonflies.
Barbara Lucas says widow's finger. Maybe that's the next one.
That's a fritillary. That's as close as I can get. I don't know which one. On butterfly weed, naturally. And male ebony jewel wing. The males are the beautiful colors. The females are a bit more drab. Is that Parker Mill is an awesome place to go and watch ebony jewel wings. And this year I came across a stand of Michigan lilies at Leonard Preserve that I hadn't realized were there. Another year for bumblebees too, I guess. Pinckney Wreck, Pickerel Lake, Pickerel Weed. Nope, near and dear to my heart. This is at the Prairie at St. Joe. And so, by now we are in late October. I recommend going out there mid to late October, and you'll see, just hundreds of fringe gentian out there. And pictures don't do them justice. They're a very cool plant. And Park Linden in the fall, right? It's really cool. You probably saw in the newsletter, I had a number of pictures. The Embury Swamp is just this golden stand of tamarack. And then there are oak islands that extend into the tamarack swamp. And so you get the juxtaposition of the beautiful oak leaves with the yellow background of the tamaracks. And okay, quiz time. How many species do you see and how many can you identify?
And red oak.
No?
We're up to 4.
Maybe there's a.
All right, what are your 4?
We see a white oak and a red oak on the right.
There's a white oak, there's a red oak.
There's a sassafras, obviously, the 2-thumbed mitten.
Yeah.
Aspen to its left.
Maple.
Mhm. Yep, there's maple leaf. There's a big tooth aspen, and I don't know, sometimes plant names just kind of hit me. The big tooth aspen, right? Populus grandidentata, right? That was just Latin for big teeth. What else?
Elm.
Elm. What, this one?
Yeah. No.
It's possible. I would have guessed it a beech, but that's just me.
The bottom corner with a green box, above that is an elm, it's white elm,
The bottom right corner, TC says it's
right there.
Oh. Excellent. Come on now, we're missing an obvious one here.
Hepatica.
There you go.
Yeah, someone said that in chat, I think.
Ah. I should fire up the chat. Yes. But wait a minute, it's in my show. Barbara, you said widow skimmers, you're doing a show on dragonflies.
Yeah, my last green room show, which started airing today on CTN. In fact, I could put the link in the chat if you want.
Please do.
Yeah.
Please do. Because I'm really close to done, and unless I did line up. Somebody talked about going to Muir Woods. I did line up some pictures of a trip I took in early November, out to Muir Woods and a couple of other Coast Redwood parks.
Go for it.
I don't want to bore people. Here we go. That's the last one. That's just from a week or so ago. I don't know. I really like birches. It's a yellow birch out at oh, I shouldn't have done